Here goes. Whoa, this is fast. This is the new Tesla Model Y Performance, and in this review I'm going to be telling you what's new on the outside, what's changed in here, how much it costs, and of course how fast it is, not only according to Tesla, but on a mild autumn day in Oxfordshire. But first, this video is supported by Pod Drive, the new all-inclusive home charging subscription from Pod, designed to make powering your EV affordable and totally hassle-free. Check out the description below to find out more. So, fairly obviously, as the name suggests, this is the fastest and the most powerful version of the new Tesla Model Y. We've already driven other versions of this car, and even the entry-level rear-wheel drive version isn't slow. It can do 0 to 60 officially in 5.6 seconds, and the dual motor long range, that cuts a second off that time and can do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. But this can apparently do it in 3.3 seconds. And as I mentioned earlier, later on, I'll be finding out if it really can. Now, you need a lot of power to make a big 4.8 meter long SUV like this accelerate so quickly. And the Model Y Performance has two electric motors, one driving the front wheels and another powering the rears, that together pump out up to 454 brake horsepower. That's a lot, although it might sound a bit tame compared to the 641 brake horsepower Hyundai Ioniq 5N or the 742 brake horsepower MG IM6 Performance. But remember, Teslas are pretty light by electric car standards. This weighs just over 2 tons, whereas the Ioniq 5N, that weighs more than 2.2 tons, and the IM6 Performance, well, that weighs more than 2.4 tons. Charging speeds are exactly the same as they are for the long-range versions of the Model Y. So that means this can accept a maximum rate of around 250 kilowatts. That's not amazing compared with an Ioniq 5M or an MG IM6. Both of those cars have 800 volt architectures. This has a 400 volt architecture, but it's still pretty quick, and it means a 10 to 80% top up should take just under half an hour. And the Model Y has unrestricted access to Tesla's brilliant supercharger network, which syncs up with the car's infotainment system to tell you where's best to charge. And also, it's cheaper to charge your Tesla at a supercharger than it is a non-Tesla EV, even the ones that are available to other electric cars, unless you sign up to a monthly subscription. And what about range? Well, Tesla is always reluctant to talk official battery sizes, but we have it on good authority that this has a battery with a usable capacity of 79 kilowatt hours, which makes it bigger than the battery in other versions of the Model Y. And that probably explains why this gets pretty close on range. This has an official range of 360 miles. The longest range Model Y, that's the long range rear wheel drive, that can officially do 387 miles. So this very usable range, and is further than you'll get in an Ioniq 5N or an MG IM6 Performance. Anyway, how are people going to know that you've bought a performance version rather than a boggo entry-level fleet spec Model Y? Well, probably the biggest visual clue, on the outside at least, are these bespoke 21-inch arachnid alloys. These wheels do not have the aero caps fitted. They slot in there, you get those as standard. You should be able to see them on screen now. And they help the car slip through the air a little bit better, but you can choose to have them fitted or not. You also get stickier Pirelli P0 rubber, but that's not all, because the Model Y Performance also has a restyled front bumper, a new rear bumper, a new rear diffuser, and also a carbon fibre spoiler. And all of those things work together to increase downforce. In fact, Tesla says that the new Model Y Performance compared to the old Model Y Performance reduces drag by 10% and lift by 64%. And that should make this more tied down and more composed when you get near its 155 mile an hour top speed. And if it's night time and people haven't noticed any of that stuff, they might spot the Performance badge on the puddle lights. There aren't any unique paint colours for the Performance though. Like other Model Ys, this comes in stealth grey as standard, with pearl white, diamond black, deep blue metallic, quicksilver, and this ultra red on the options list. Just bear in mind that those non-standard colours aren't cheap. They cost between £1,300 and £2,600. Now, I'm not going to run you through the size of the boot or how much space there is in the back, because the answer is exactly the same as in any other Model Y. And we've done plenty of reviews on this car already, including a triple test against the new MG IM6 and the BYD C-Line 7 that, after you've watched this video, of course, you can watch by clicking the link up there at the top. But there are a few things that are specific to the Model Y performance, and one of them I'm actually sitting on. These front seats are bespoke for the performance, and they have more side bolstering to hold you in place better when you're going around corners. Now, the latest generation of the Model Y has better side support than the previous generation model, even when we're not talking about performance versions, but this goes one step further. And these seats do hold you in place really well when you're going around corners quite quickly. They also have adjustable seat base cushions, so I can extend these seat bases out to give myself better under thigh support. In a lot of cars, I find I don't have quite enough of that, but these seats just make the Model Y performance better suited to different body shapes, so that is a really good thing. On top of that, the performance has carbon fibre on the dashboard up here, some more carbon fibre inserts on the insides of the doors, and also aluminium pedals. But one change you might not be expecting is that you also get a bigger touchscreen. In the standard Model Y, you get a 15.4-inch touchscreen, but this has grown to 16 inches. And okay, that's not a huge difference, but because of these thinner bezels around the side, it just means you get a bit more real estate. And I wouldn't have thought I'd really tell the difference, but you can. This screen does look bigger, and it's a safe bet that this larger screen will be rolled out to other versions of the Model Y and probably the Model 3 in the future. But at the moment, it is specific to the Model Y performance. The operating system is near enough the same, although there are a few specific things for the performance, including, if I go to the Dynamics menu, there is an insane mode for the acceleration that we'll be trying out later on, and also there is a standard and a sport setting for the ride and handling. And what that does is adjust the adaptive suspension, so it stiffens things up when you want to drive a bit faster. There is also the ability to reduce the interference from the stability control and the traction control systems, and that should allow you to have a little bit more fun when you're in the mood. But before we go for a drive on some of Oxfordshire's twistier roads, we have a long, straight piece of road right in front of us here, and it's time to find out how fast this is. And to do that, I need to engage insane mode for the acceleration. I have also switched to sport for the ride and handling, not that that should make too much difference. And I have a sophisticated piece of GPS timing gear attached to the windscreen here that will measure my 0-60 time. So all I need to do is left foot hard on the brake, right foot hard on the accelerator. The car will tell me ready to launch, release brake to begin, release brake, and we're off. And it is fast, but it hasn't quite done 0-60 in 3.3 seconds. It has done it in 3.67 seconds. Now, I have 90% of battery. Right, we're gonna have one more go, and this time I'm not going to use the launch control system. All I'm going to do is sidestep the brake pedal, foot flat on the accelerator, and see if that makes any difference at all. 3.6. So, not using launch control has actually resulted in a slightly quicker 0-60 time. Again, it's not quite 3.3 seconds, but it's not far off, and that is still insanely fast. And perhaps on a sunny California day where it's a bit warmer than it is here, tarmac stickier, then it may well do 3.3 seconds, I don't doubt that. But in late September, on a British B road that's slightly dusty, then 3.6 seconds isn't bad at all. But really, that isn't a huge surprise, is it? Tesla has been building insanely fast cars for years now, and the new Model Y performance is just another example of that. So what is it like on a road with some corners in? Well, we're on one now, and the first thing that is very obvious is how much speed you can carry through corners. Yes, it's a nice sunny, dry day today, but these Pirelli tyres really do hold the road incredibly well. And it isn't as though you're just flying around a corner with no idea what's going on, because the steering, okay, it's not the most feelsome setup that you're ever going to experience. A Porsche Macan electric, a more expensive option than this, is better in that respect, but the steering is accurate. You get a reasonable sense of connection with the front wheels. I'm not entirely sure on the point of the heaviest setting for the steering. Now, on not brilliantly surfaced country road like the one I'm on now, I actually prefer the suspension in its standard setting, because that allows the car to iron out some of the imperfections in the road and just breathe with the road a little better, rather than trying to follow every little crevice and ripple and throwing you around the car when it does so. But we have driven this car on some smoother tarmac earlier on, and there the sport mode for the suspension is quite useful because it does just cut down on the amount of lean in corners a little bit, even though in either mode this stays pretty upright through corners, particularly by electric SUV standards. And if you dial down the interference from the stability control system, it doesn't turn this into a playful car, even compared with a Ioniq 5N, for example, let alone some petrol alternatives in this price point. But you can feel the car moving around underneath you a little bit, particularly when you accelerate hard out of slow corners. Another thing I should probably mention are the brakes. And you might imagine, given how much power this car has and how quick it is, that they'd be uprated over other versions of the Model Y. But they actually aren't. They are exactly the same brakes that you get on other versions. The calipers have just been painted red. And perhaps if you're on a track and you were pounding down fast straights and braking for hairpins, then they might come up short. But on the road, the driving that we've done today, they've been absolutely fine. And actually, as we always say about Teslas, the brakes are far more consistent and confidence inspiring than they are in a lot of electric cars, because you don't get that vague response as the regen kicks in at the top of the pedal travel. You don't get that pulsating as you squeeze harder. So really, it just makes it easy to know how much pressure you need to apply to slow down for a corner. So overall, the Model Y performance is fast. You can cover ground extremely quickly, and you can even have a reasonable amount of fun, even though this isn't quite as playful as other electric alternatives like the Ioniq 5N. So, the price. This costs £61,990, exactly £10,000 more than the next most expensive Model Y, a car that, on paper at least, can do a few more miles on a charge and is still very quick. So clearly, this isn't the most sensible version of the Model Y, but performance versions of cars rarely are. And if you want something that's not just faster and better to drive, but looks a bit more special than other versions of the Model Y, then why not? It's also worth noting that this is cheaper and more practical than the admittedly slightly more fun Ioniq 5N. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch another one, click up there. And for our full detailed written review on the new Tesla Model Y performance, click there to head to whatcar.com.